I'm Becca and I'm the Youth and Schools Worker at Carshalton Beaches Baptist Church. And this week we're looking at part 2 of the big story of the Bible. If you haven't seen the first video, then I definitely recommend checking that out before you watch this one, and you can find the link in the description below. So we've talked about creation and how good it is, the fact that God made a creation that he said was good. And yet I know that I can look out my window and pretty much see that that's not always the case. There's things that go on that we know are horrendous. It doesn't take much more than a quick scroll on the news to be able to see that. When I talk about pain and suffering and stuff that sucks in this world, all of us will immediately think of situations or times when we've experienced that for ourselves. None of those things seem very good. So what's happened? We've just opened the Bible. We're basically at chapter 3. And what's happened? Things have changed. Something's maybe gone wrong. You see, in the Garden of Eden, there's this tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God has specifically said to Adam and Eve, you can eat anything from any of the other trees in the garden, just not this one. But there was a whisper from a serpent, and the tastiness of the fruit obviously caught their eye. And Adam and Eve ended up eating the fruit. And then they hid. They were embarrassed. They were ashamed. They'd worked out that they were naked. And they hid from God too. Obviously God, being God, knew exactly what had happened. He called out and was like, why are you hiding from me? He gives them clothes to hide their nakedness. But at that moment, everything was changed. God, being real about the fact that he told them not to eat from that tree, chucks them out of the garden. Eden isn't for them anymore. And that's when death and sin and brokenness entered the world. You see, when Adam and Eve chose to eat that apple, that fruit from the tree, it broke down the relationship that humanity has with God. It broke down the relationship that we have with each other. You can see that in the arguments that people have. It broke down the relationship that we have with ourselves. You can see people who don't have very good self-esteem and know that to be true. And it also broke down the relationship that we have with our planet, with creation itself. And natural disasters really highlight that too. So the Bible is real about the fact that the world we live in isn't perfect. There's stuff that isn't good. This explains that. But what does this passage tell us about who God is? And why is it important to us now? Well, firstly, number 1, it tells us that God is just. When God sets out a rule and has consequences, then they happen. Think about times in your life when you've been treated unfairly. In those situations, what you've wanted is justice. It's really good that we have a God who is just. Secondly, this tells us that there is brokenness and pain in the world that we live in. This brokenness in the world is also reflected in us, ourselves. No one alive today is perfect. We've all messed up in different ways. We've all sort of contributed a little bit to this brokenness. And thirdly, this is only chapter 3 in the Bible. The Bible is a book that's much longer than this. And it tells us that this isn't the end of the story. If you're sitting there panicking or worried, don't. Next week, we're going to look at what happens next. God had a rescue plan because he loves humanity that much. And we're going to talk about that next week. So if you want to keep in the loop, why not hit that subscribe button so you can see the video when it comes up. I'll catch you soon. Bye!